Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Noah White here yet again. In today's video I am going to be talking a little bit about the Lexus, not so much installing things but just chatting a little bit about what's going on with the car now and kind of where it has gone since I've got the turbo kit on it and got it running on the AEM FIC. As you guys saw, well hopefully you guys saw, a couple weeks ago I went to the drag strip, just went to Sonoma Raceway, which is near me, and I was able to get the car down the track. It almost trapped 100 miles an hour, which I'm happy with. Fastest trap speed I got was 97 miles an hour, but as I mentioned in the video, the car was just like right off the line. I could just floor it and it would absolutely do nothing for at least 3 seconds. If you go back and watch the clips of me launching the car, you can literally hear me hitting the gas pedal or hitting it all the way to the floor. You can hear it, and then the car is literally just not taking off, not doing anything. And mostly that's attributed to the particular kind of engine management that I have on the car now, if you want to call it engine management. That is, it's really just a piggyback system. I am using the AEM FIC, FIC6 to be precise, and there's nothing wrong with the FIC6 by itself. The FIC works fine, and you know, 9 times out of 10 I can get in this car and I can drive and it'll be perfectly fine. However, I have not launched the car outside of the track. Like, that was the first time I ever launched the car. Just not because I was scared of breaking anything. I don't know, I just didn't really want to do that until I got to the racetrack to kind of see what it was going to do. But yeah, anyway, that was the first time I did it, and as you can tell in the video, it didn't like that at all. So the FIC6 works fine. I did get this FIC6 for pretty cheap. It was $250 when I bought it. I bought it on Craigslist. It was a really good deal. I think you could still buy them new. I think they're like $500, but yeah, just working with the Toyota ECU. As you guys may know, the Toyota and Lexus ECUs, especially these IS300s, the GS300s, they're self-learning ECUs. So basically what that means is, when I first got this car up and running about 5 or 6 months ago, maybe about 6 months ago or so, when I first started it up, all I did was go into the fuel map on the FIC and I changed a few things around, trying to get it to give more fuel as I made boosts, because obviously this car was not boosted from the factory, and so you need more fuel. So went into the fuel map, did that, it was fine. I drove around for about, I don't know, 2 or 3 months like that, and everything was cool. It actually got better. The more I drove it, the better it got. And I was, you know, I could hit the throttle, full throttle, it would be perfect. AFRs would be about 12, 11.8-ish, which is fine. I mean, it could be dialed in more, but that's totally fine. And yeah, it worked like that great. As I got to the end of driving it for about 3 months, 4 months or so, the car started just acting weird. The O2 sensors, bank 1 and bank 2, started just going opposite directions. One would go way lean, one would go way rich, and it was starting to trim a lot of fuel out, and I didn't know what was really going on with that. After I did some research, I come to find out that the Toyota ECUs just learn. And so basically what was happening is, whatever fuel I was adding to the car with the FIC, the stock computer was just learning that and not liking it pretty much, and trimming out all the extra fuel that I was providing. So basically all what I was doing on my fuel maps was just for nothing, and the car was just trying to revert back to driving stock, you know, like a normal 2J. Long story short, basically, is that this AEM is just, for what I need it for, it's just not going to work anymore. As a piggyback, it's just not a good solution for this car. And I mentioned in the beginning that it's just not, it wasn't the long-term solution for this, but I was able to get a new ECU for this thing, so I'm excited to show you guys that. I did end up going with the ECU Masters EMU Black, and as you guys know, this car is automatic, so finding an ECU that will work with an automatic currently, because this is currently what I'm using, I needed one that worked with the automatic and one that will also work with the factory Toyota electronic throttle and the cluster and the HVAC, because if you guys have IS300s know this runs on some kind of proprietary like MPX Toyota, I don't know what it's, multiplex system. It's, you know, it's just communication between the ECU and the cluster and the AC and the HVAC unit. So fortunately, ECU Masters has got that all sorted out. Another good company is Link. Those are the only two companies I know right now that are able to run in parallel with the factory Toyota ECU and still have the cluster work and the HVAC controls work as well. So anyway, I ended up going with the EMU Black, and I went ahead and bought their plug and play parallel harness that comes with everything you need to literally just plug it up, turn it on, you know, load up a bass tune, and you should be about your way. So I know I've been doing a lot of talking right now in the beginning, and I'm sorry, sometimes I just go on rants like that. But yeah, let me just show you guys what the EMU looks like and all the packaging and whatnot, and I will get right back to you guys in a minute. Here is the packaging it comes with. I'm pretty sure this is the actual ECU itself. I'll just open it up and show you guys what it looks like. Got a little warranty card. Now they do have a 2-year warranty for this particular ECU, so if you have any issues with it, you can obviously just contact them, send it back, and they should be able to get you sorted out. But this is the EMU itself. Looks sweet. It's really small. It's actually pretty heavy, but it comes in this pretty awesome looking aluminum heatsink kind of deal. But yeah, it looks awesome. It does have the built-in map sensor. This can read up to 43 pounds of boost. I think it's a 4-bar map sensor, and obviously I'm never running 43 pounds of boost on this particular setup, but it's cool to know that in the future, if I did want to run, you know, pretty high boost application, I can do so. And this is definitely a permanent solution to the AEM FIC that I have on there. This is definitely going to should last the, you know, the lifetime of the vehicle. And this should, even if I decided to, you know, swap motors to a V8 or whatever, this should be able to handle anything that I need to do in the future. It does come with obviously the USB cable that you'll need to connect up to the laptop. And then there's also some type of adapter here. I don't know if this is to charge something or if this is how you actually connect to this EMU. Oh yeah, it's a micro USB. So this is the micro USB to traditional USB adapter. All right, so next thing up over here I have is the plug and play harness, which is specifically for 2002 through 2005 IS300s. They do also make one for the 2001 IS300s and GS300s. So what this is going to do is allow me to pretty much, I can take this whole thing out here and show you. I'll take this guy right here, and this will plug, all of the factory ECU plugs will plug into this adapter here. So I'll unplug them all from the factory ECU, plug all of the factory harness into here, and then this side will go plugged back into the Toyota ECU. All of this is doing is pretty much allowing the Toyota ECU to control, you know, the automatic transmission, the electronic throttle body, and a few other things. So, but like I mentioned earlier, this whole setup is an entire standalone system. So the Toyota ECU is not controlling anything from the engine anymore, like nothing whatsoever. It's all being controlled by the EMU now. And then this here portion will go off into the EMU. Everything is already pre-wired. I don't have to do anything extra. The only thing I'm going to have to do is get the IAT sensor installed into the intercooler piping just before the throttle body, because this is now going to be tuned on a speed density setup, whereas obviously the IS300 is using a MAF sensor. So the MAF sensor will be no longer, won't need it anymore. And what's cool is that this actually comes with a GM style IAT sensor, and it comes with a bung here that I can weld into my intercooler piping. So you know, there are a few things you need to do before you can go ahead and just plug this up and use it. Mainly this IAT sensor, you know, if you don't know how to fabricate, you can take it to I don't know, some kind of shop, or maybe you have a buddy that can weld for you, TIG weld this into the aluminum, which in case I do, and I kind of want to learn anyway, so this might be a good opportunity for me to do so. But anyway, you'll need to install this IAT sensor. And then it also comes with a Bosch 4.9 LSU wideband. So as I mentioned earlier as well, I'm going to be sticking this in the upper O2 bung for the cxracing downpipe, and then I will retain my current AEM wideband, which is also a 4.9. I'm just going to use the AEM one specifically for my gauge in the car. It won't be controlling anything, whereas this will be controlling the tune. So I'm super stoked on getting the EMU Black. It was, you know, well, it wasn't cheap, I'll tell you that much. And like I said before, the good thing about it is when I do go to a manual transmission, I can still use the same EMU Black and I won't have any issues with it. I can reuse the plug and play harness and everything that comes with it. As I mentioned, I am going to have to pretty much undo everything I did in the ECU box, which basically is all of this wiring that I had to do right here for this FIC. All this wiring, all these wires, I tapped into the factory harness. I cut and spliced and soldered and everything. Basically, I'm gonna have to undo all of that. Just basically put it all back to original stock wiring. And then that way I can use the plug and play harness to just plug up to the connectors there, and I shouldn't have any issues with that. I'm not gonna take you guys through all the wiring, but I am just going to go on ahead and knock this wiring out, pretty much delete this whole thing here. I'm gonna have to reroute my map sensor source into the EMU as well. And yeah, just a few housekeeping items, if you will. Finally got everything situated to where I can try and start this thing up. There's not a lot that needs to get done before you put the EMU Black on. But so you guys know, the EMU Black is a standalone, and as I mentioned earlier, it will be controlling all of the aspects of the engine. It does run in parallel with the factory ECU, which you can see I got the jumper harness plugged in. This is how you do it. The yellow plugs go plugged into the factory ECU, and all the plugs that you unplugged out of this ECU actually go into this adapter harness here. Supposedly, he said, the guy at EMU Black says that this whole monstrosity fits into the box. I really don't know how, but maybe if you force it down and close it up, I have no idea. I hope so, because this looks awful. And then I got the plug and play harness ran over to the EMU Black. Oh, by the way, I should mention, make sure you disconnect your battery before you do any of this plugging up. It says on the first start checklist that you will damage the EMU if you don't unplug this battery, and also unplug the USB cable from the computer if you're going to do so. But anyway, I just have this stuff temporarily mounted up so I can just try and start the car. Got my map sensor source, which is going to the EMU. This was originally going to the FIC, if you remember. It was sitting right here on top of the box. Then I just ran the wideband harness just right there. I got it down into the first bung on the cxracing downpipe, and I mentioned I put my AEM one on the second bung. Then I also had to extend the IAT sensor. Oh yeah, I had to welded up the IAT sensor into the intercooler piping here. So this is the supplied GM style IAT sensor. And as I mentioned, I had to extend the wiring because I think that this plug and play harness was designed to run with like a forward facing intake manifold, and to which the IAT sensor would be somewhere over here. But no big deal, just extended it about a foot, and it reaches just fine. I went on ahead and took off the cover here so I can get to this number one spark plug wire so that I can just verify timing, and should be good to go. So I have everything connected for the most part. I am going to have to load up a tune onto this EMU. They do provide a bass tune, so let me get the rest of that sorted and I'll get right back to you guys. Alright, I'm sitting in the car now. I think I got everything ready to go. You definitely want, it was highly stressed that you read the first start checklist before you even attempt to start the car, and I've gone through that. There is a lot of stuff in there saying, you know, pretty much pertaining to people who are making their own wiring harness. Now, since I bought the parallel harness, I'm not going to go through all the stuff that's in here, like checking the inputs, checking the outputs, checking the injectors, make sure they work. I'm not going to go through all that because, I mean, theoretically, the wiring that is already on the car should be fine, and all I'm doing is just running the parallel harness. So all of that should be fine, and I shouldn't have to touch any of it. I just wanted to make sure I had everything hooked up before I hooked up the battery. And now, so what I'm going to do now is just try and load up a tune into the map. and or excuse me, a tune onto the EMU and see if it'll start. All right, so once you get the software opened up, you can just go to the top left and you can go to File, or you can click on this little folder that's right next to the Save Floppy Disk. Click Open Project, and now when you go to the EMU Black's website or the ECU Masters, they do have base maps on there as start tunes. They're not, you know, fully tuned maps to where you just go out and just start, you know, ripping the car, but it will enable you to at least start the car, or it should be. All the ignition triggers and all that stuff should be set. So this one right here that I have at the bottom is the one that's from their website. However, when I click on it and look at it, the injector size is set to 440 cc's, probably assuming you had a GTE motor in here or GT injectors, more than likely. So I did call the guy at EMU Black, and he sent me another one, which is this IS300 one with 300 cc injectors, because as you guys know, I'm running stock injectors, which are 250 cc injectors. And basically he told me that it should run on either one of them. You just have to, I'd have to adjust the fuel map, but I'm gonna load up the one he gave me, which is this 300 cc injector one. So I'm just gonna click on that and click open. And now that actually is not loaded into the EMU yet, but if I go over here and look at, say, the ignition tab up here, you see these tabs on the top, just click on ignition, or excuse me, not ignition, triggers. I will see that it's already set up to VVTi and VR sensor, kind of all this stuff should be set already. It's got the 6 spark plugs out here. All this stuff should be set up to where I can at least start the car. What I'm going to do now is just turn the key on, because down here it's flashing red down there in the very corner right there because it's disconnected. I'm just going to go back to my first start diagram and see what it says. It says loading after verifying the power and coils, blah blah blah. Turn the ignition key on and it should go from red to green. So let me turn the key on and see what it does. Let me go back and see if it goes to green. Yep, it went solid green down there. So that's a good thing. The first thing that shows up is the EMU device data differs from the client data, basically meaning the data that's loaded into the EMU is different than what's on this computer, which is true because the EMU would have nothing on it. So if you wanted to send the data from the computer to the EMU, you would use client data, which is what I'm going to use. So I did that, and I went on here and clicked make tables permanent, which is this top left guy over here. So that should be good to go. All right, so the next thing you want to do is to do a TPS calibration, and you can do that by going to the sensor setup, which is just up here at the top left of the screen. Sorry, I can't really focus on this stuff very well. Just open it up and it should say TPS on it. Just double click in, and that's going to open up a little box over here on the right. So you normally want to type this stuff in manually right here, this stuff. In order to see what the TPS is actually reading, you can go into the logs down here, which is also on the left hand side over here. If you scroll down on the bottom, there should be something called logs. So let me go down there. Open up the log, and you open up analog inputs. Sorry, I'm not really focusing on it. Analog inputs, which is up here. Double click on that and it'll bring up the TPS voltage, which right now you see is at 0.75. That is the minimum, which matches the minimum over here. Then I'm going to go ahead and put the throttle down all the way to the floor and see if that goes up. That's my foot to the floor. It says 3.98 and they got 3.94. So I think I'm going to go on ahead and switch that to 3.98 on this side. You can do that by just simply clicking in that area there, and you could just type it in. So I'm gonna just change that to 3.98. Whenever you do something like that, you want to make sure you go up here to make tables permanent, which is that little icon just underneath the file. And you get that little noise. Yeah, I guess we can go on ahead and just try and fire it up now and see if it'll run. We'll fire right up. RPM showing, TPS is 4%, ignition angle is at 13 degrees right now. So you can see that also has Lambda right here displaying, and obviously my map's going to be a little bit off because these are 300cc injectors as it's listed, and these are just not the right size. So also base fuel pressure plays into that as well, but you guys can see it is running now. There are no check engine lights up here. The traction control light's flashing, but it always flashes, I don't know why. But yeah, so far so good. I'm gonna go to the ignition map and see what ignition it's asking for right now. So as you can see, it's asking for about 14 degrees right now, which is where it's kind of laying there. So I'm going to go out and just verify that I am getting 14 degrees on the motor out there. So give me a minute. Alright, got the timing light out. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but I'll try and get you guys down there and see what it looks like. Probably won't be able to see it, but anyway, I checked it, and the ignition timing in the map here, let me show you. Excuse my exhaust, it's just rattling like crazy. Ignition timing it's asking for over here is 16 degrees, and that's what I'm getting out there. So far it's doing good. You can see my AFRs here, 13.9, 14.0. Of course, all this stuff is going to take some time for me to be able to you know, get it all dialed in, but man guys, it's up and running. No drama, first start. So super stoked. So excited to see where this is gonna go. Man guys, I'm actually super stoked that that went that easy. I was for sure thinking I was gonna have some problem, but everything worked out just fine. So it started right up. I revved it a little bit. I did kind of that off camera. My timing light fell down, so I had to make sure it wasn't hitting anything. But yeah, fired right up, no problems at all. I do have to adjust the fueling a little bit because, as I mentioned before, 300cc injectors are not matching my 250cc injectors. But the thing about this is it does have a Lambda target. I won't be tuning on like an AFR map. It'll be VE tuning with Lambda target. And it does have PID corrections, which is just fancy for saying that it'll fix itself, you know, just sitting here at idle. So it'll, if you set a Lambda target, it will try and target that particular air fuel ratio for you, so that way you don't really damage anything. Of course, that's not how it's going to work when you get into boost and doing really high load situations, but just sitting here at idle, it'll fix itself just fine. So it did start out around 12 for the AFR on my AEM gauge, and then it gradually crept its way up to about 14.1-ish, which is getting close to Lambda. So yeah, I'm stoked guys. I hope you guys are as excited as I am, and I'm really excited to get this thing back to the racetrack. Of course, I got a little bit of work to do on the tuning aspect, but overall I'd say that this was a success. As I mentioned before, I'm just running this, gonna just use this little laptop here. It seemed to do just fine. I don't have any issues with it at all. But just to show you guys kind of what I'm talking about in here, as far, I don't know if this is gonna even, yeah, I don't know if this is gonna be, let me bring it inside, give me a second. Yeah, so as you can see in here, if I'm in the fuel map up here, there's these tabs at the top. You can see I'm gonna change them: ignition, fuel, idle. I'm not going to touch any of that. Just the fuel and ignition maps I'm concerned about. Didn't have any issues with the triggers or cranking, none of that. If you do have an EMU Black, obviously this is disconnected right now, so it's going to say that. But right here where this black box is, there will be a sync error if you have your ignition triggers wrong or something like that. But as I said, I'm using the parallel harness, so I won't have any issues at all. You can also check engine lights within the EMU with this as well, but that's beside the point. Going over here to fuel, if I go over here to the sidebar over here and I go into the fueling tab, which I'm already on, but I'll just open it so you guys can see it, and go down to the fuel tables. VE table 1 is what this is right here. This is going to adjust your fueling, all of your fueling. From idle, I have it set on map sensor as the load axis down here on the x-axis, and then RPM is on the right side. And then lambda target table, which I can just double click on, and that opens that up here. This will be what the Bosch wideband is reading. It's going to feed that information into the EMU, and it's going to control the fueling for you. You know, in light load situations here, you can see it's set at 0.98 lambda, which is just below stoic, which, you know, if you're in AFR realm, that would be 14.7. So this is just below that, which is what I was seeing on my gauge, about 14.1, 14.2-ish, which is perfectly fine. And as you see, as the map sensor sees boost and RPM, you want to go richer, which is what's set at. Of course, this is just a general idea. This is just a base tune. All of this stuff will probably change most likely, but as of now and just driving and starting it, it should be good to go. This VE table right here is what you're going to control most of your fuel with. So, you know, this software is really powerful. Obviously, you know, it wasn't cheap to do. It's a pretty big step forward with this car, and hopefully this EMU will last me for you know, the longevity of the car. No matter whatever happens, I should be able to use the EMU for whatever I need it to be for, and it should be good. I've heard lots of good things about them, especially with using it in conjunction with the Toyota ECU. That way I can maintain all my gauges. You saw all the gauges worked inside. My HVAC still works just fine. The electronic throttle is working just fine. I don't have any check engine lights at all. So seems like they got their stuff sorted out over there at ECU Masters. So I'm excited for that. But I know this wasn't really a super exciting video because I was just trying to get all this stuff done and knocked out. I was just super busy this week, so sorry it took so long for the upload as usual, but I just had a lot of other things to do. And as you guys know, the car is just not, you know, the priority if I have other things to do. So appreciate you guys sticking around for this longer video, and I do hope that you guys would consider hitting the subscribe button if you liked the video, hitting the like button, sharing it with your buddies, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.